Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Scott and this is another My Bourbon Journey review. So if you're new to this channel and you're looking for reviews of different whiskeys such as bourbons, ryes, American whiskeys, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also hit the bell notification. That's going to alert you to when I'm doing new uploads, live streams, things along those lines. So today I'm doing a kind of a side-by-side or a bit of a showdown between the Kentucky Owl Rye Batch 1 and the Kentucky Owl Rye Batch 2. This is just actually another Batch 1, but I just had it for kind of display purposes. I was actually nice enough to get a sample from somebody in the whiskey community, and you can check him out on Instagram. He is at the Whiskey Cask. So he was nice enough to send me a sample of the Batch 2. Which we'll be doing in kind of the battle today. So this is more along the lines of not necessarily like a comparison. Well, it kind of is that. I just wanted to, since there was so much kind of back and forth on which one was better, I thought I would kind of just do a side by side of the two, saw which one maybe I preferred better and why. So why don't we start out? And again, I'm going to start out from left to right. Batch 1 versus Batch 2, and we'll kind of go from there. First, I wanted to give a little bit of information just regarding the Kentucky Owl brand itself. So this was something that started back in 1879 by C.M. Dedman, the Kentucky Owl brand, and is now essentially being run by his great-great-grandson, Dixon Dedman. Now, the brand Kentucky Owl was actually just purchased not long ago by Stoli, and they're in the works of producing or making a huge grounds for everybody to essentially visit at some point. So again, the brand was then restarted back in 2014 by Dixon Dedman. The bourbon anyway, and that began kind of the cult following of this brand. So beginning with Batch 1 of their bourbon. So if anybody is very familiar with the brand, they'll know kind of how a lot of people have latched on to this brand itself. So again, the bourbon's been produced. I think they're up to, as of the recording of this, Batch 8 for the bourbon again, and the rye. Really only the 2 batches have been released to date. So a little bit of information on both of these. So Batch 1, this is an 11-year straight rye whiskey. Proof-wise, this is 110.6 proof or 55.3% ABV. Again, it's a sourced rye whiskey, so we don't know fully where it's coming from, whether it's one distillery or several, but it is a blended straight rye whiskey. MSRP on this when it was released was right in that $130 range. Again, 11-year product. So yeah, so that was, and this was released in 2017. So the information on Batch 2 was this was just released over the summer of 2018. The proof on this was 101.8. Also an 11-year straight rye whiskey. MSRP on this was right in that $200 range. So there was a little bit of talk and concern in the whiskey community just about the roughly $70 price increase, and did the lower proof rye whiskey justify a $70 price increase. So I wanted to kind of just put the two together, see which, what I was kind of pulling out of each one, and then, kind of go from there. So why don't we get into the review? So like I do with most reviews or anything I do, is we'll go through the appearance, we'll go through the nosing, the taste, and then really any other general information from there. So why don't we go ahead and we'll get into it. So again, this is going to be Kentucky Owl Straight Rye, 11-year batch 1. So as you can see, really nice kind of amber color, and it should. I mean, for where, you know, they're stating it as 11 years, so that's the minimum age that it has to be for the youngest whiskey that's in there. There can be older whiskey, but that has to be the stated age if you're going to give it an actual age statement. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into this. So right away you're getting that really nice kind of sweet, you know, dill kind of spearmint note to it. There's a bit of a candy type of note to it. Candy meaning just kind of this candy sweetness that's kind of wanting to come through. A dark fruit. I mean, definitely the rye spice. So there's a really nice, sweet, just kind of rye spice to it. Little bit of, you kind of get a little bit of heat off of this. Definitely the dark fruit kind of coming through. There's this cherry type of note to it. Even pick up a bit of like a prune. That's kind of the dark fruit side of it. Yeah, this really nice kind of sweet rye note. You're definitely also picking up some of the barrel influence as well. All right, let's give this a taste. Cheers. All right, so sip 1. I want to get the palate coated a little bit here, just to really start being able to help identify more of the flavor profile. Okay, so right away you get hit with that nice kind of wood tone, that rye spice is there. There's an underlying honey note to it as well. Even a bit of like a dried apricot type of note to that as well. The dill is kind of a little bit kind of muted. There is a little bit of that dill there, but I'm picking up more of the spearmint part of it than I am the dill, which I like more in rye, getting that than I do the dill. But yeah, definitely those dark fruits are there. That apricot note is kind of wanting to come through. Coats the mouth really well. It's got a good mouth feel to it. That barrel, again, that influence is there. That honey note is there. Nice spearmint note to it. It's a really, really well put together rye. Again, this is blends of different, you know, rye, but fantastic. I mean, it's just a really, really nice, well put together rye whiskey. You can see why there was so much, I guess, excitement and hoopla to really this whole like product. Once they announced that this was going to be released, you know, everybody wanted it. Shortly thereafter, people who got it were raving about it. I did a review a while ago, which I'll link above, and it really was just a fantastic, you know, rye whiskey. It's well balanced, put together. There's different, you know, flavors that are really wanting to come through. So I think they've done a really, really nice job with batch 1. So, all right, why don't we, and finish wise, I guess with this, I mean, it's medium to long. It's still kind of going. I mean, I'm getting that nice rye spice in the back of the palate. I mean, it's really lingering for quite some time. As we kind of, or as the finish develops or kind of starts to kind of mellow out a little bit, you are left with this like tobacco type of note in the back of the palate as well. So little bit of dryness there to it, but really, really nice rye whiskey. So, all right, why don't we, with that being said, and we'll kind of go back and forth a little bit too if we need to, but let's go through the batch number 2. So again, batch number 2 is, again, an 11-year-old straight rye whiskey. This is going to be bottled at 101.8 proof, so that it's, roughly, 10 proof lower. Sticker price again on this was right in that $200 range. So we'll see if there's a bit of a justification for that roughly $70 kind of price hike. So, all right. So as you can see, really similar colors. I mean, these are both, as documented, 11-year straight rye whiskeys. Again, that really nice kind of deep amber copper type of color. So, all right, let's see what we've got for the nose on this. Very, very similar to batch 1. With this, I'm actually picking up rye on the nose. That oak presence is still there. Not as much of the dark fruit as I got on batch 1. Still that candy sweetness on the nose is kind of coming through. Boy, quite a bit of honey actually coming through on this. Not nearly the amount of spearmint or dill, almost no dill for me on the nose on batch 2. A little bit of spearmint there. Yeah, more of a sweet, honey, spicy type of nose to that. So yeah, a little bit different than batch 1, which you'd expect, but yeah, a little different. So all right, let's go ahead and we'll get into the taste on this. Cheers. So for batch 2, I'm going to say for me, it's a bit more like oily. I can really feel this wanting to coat the mouth a little bit more than batch 1. It's sweet, really, really nice rye spice. That honey influence is kind of wanting to come through. The spearmint is far more on this than I would say on batch 1. Still sweet, well balanced, really nice rye. Not as much of that dark fruit influence as I was getting on batch 1. For me, far less heat. Not that number 1 was hot by any means. There was a little bit of heat to it. Nothing that was overwhelming by any means. It didn't drink 110 proof. This almost no heat, way kind of smoother. Again, it's just a little bit spicier, still sweet. Fantastic. I mean, it's really a good rye. I mean, when you're doing the head-to-head between these two, there are slight differences between both of them, which you would expect. It's different, different time frame, different barrels, all of that. So, to pin the two against each other is a bit unfair. However, if I was gonna be drinking one over the other, for me, I guess if you're looking for something that's got a little bit more depth to it, I think that's all in batch 1. For me, batch 2 probably drinks a little easier just because there's less proof there. I don't know for me if it's as well put together as batch 1 is, but you know, that will be for you to decide if you ever kind of do a side-by-side. So the finish on this, I guess, as it kind of starts to develop is shorter for me on batch 2 than it was batch 1. So I guess if I'm doing a comparison of the two, and which one I would prefer, I would lean, you know, more towards batch 1 from a sipping standpoint, a little bit higher proof. I think for me, again, just a little bit more well balanced than batch 2 is. So, you know, that would be my, you know, kind of where I would kind of go with batch 1 over batch 2. I just, again, I appreciate a little bit more of how well balanced 1 is versus 2. However, they're both fantastic. I don't think you can go wrong. And I think part of the main issue really is not that the flavors are that much different, but the proof for me is making a huge difference. I think you're picking up more on batch 1 than you do with batch 2, just because of the proof. It's keeping this a little bit more muted than batch 1. So again, if I'm choosing which one I would lean to or which one I would prefer, I would definitely go for number 1. Now, in terms of pricing wise, when batch 1 came out, that was around $130. Batch 2, right around that $200 price point. I guess in my honest opinion, is there more there to somehow justify a $70-ish, you know, price jump? I say no. I think if it was reversed and you were paying closer to $200 for batch 1 and maybe $130 for batch 2, I could see that maybe being justified. But to basically still be both 11-year ryes, approximately 10 proof, you know, less, I don't think it justifies, you know, that type of price increase. Now, with that being said, Stoli making the purchase of Kentucky Owl probably had a big influence on that. They're paying for a huge complex that they're putting together, which looks to be, based on looking at some of the renderings, looks like it's going to be a fantastic place to visit at some point. So somewhere along the way, you need to, you know, increase, you know, the price for your product, and you know, there's maybe part of what we're kind of, you know, getting there. So, but again, both fantastic. It's more nitpicking than anything on both of them. Again, both really, really nice ryes. If you can find both, I'd recommend picking them both up. I mean, they're both, you know, tremendous rye whiskeys, period. So, but for me, and in the side-by-side comparison, I'd go with batch 1, just because for me, again, it's a little bit more well-rounded and put together than batch 2. So one other thing I wanted to mention was I got this lamp the other day, and this is from a company by the name of the Distillery. I'll have them linked in the description below, but I figured for anybody who appreciates you know, whiskey and all of that they had some really cool things, you know, on their site. So again, I'll have them linked in the description below. Go check them out. They got some really, really cool things. So also, I'll have any links to my Patreon. That'll be below as well. I'll have links to the Kentucky Owl stuff below as well. So, you know, let me know if you've had either batch 1 or 2 or both, your thoughts on it. I'm always interested to know whether or not, you know, others have tried, you know, either, both, whatever it may be, and kind of what your thoughts are. So leave some comments on that. Leave me a thumbs up. Always appreciate that. So like I always say, it's about the journey and not the destination. Cheers.